All right. Do you know what I'm gonna call this section?
What?
This is Meatloaf by Moonlight.
Meatloaf by Moonlight?
Yeah.
I don't think we're allowed to name the Adiscussions, are we?
Well, I was considering this a mini discussion, but
okay.
I mean that's its unofficial title at least, because I had originally written Meatloaf at Midnight.
Well, when you texted me that yesterday, I actually honestly hadn't listened to the song until yesterday.
Okay.
You gave me like 3 weeks to listen to it, and I didn't listen to it the day before, which works because you kind of have to think about what the song sounds like in order to discuss it properly.
A little bit, yeah. It's although we do book discussions without you having ever read the book.
That's true.
But we should fill people in. So we're talking about "Paradise" by the Dashboard Light, which is a song by Meatloaf. It makes no mention of Ellen Foley, who's the female singer in it.
Interesting.
Like nowhere you find it online does it ever say featuring her, or does it even describe that there's a female in it.
That's because it was an era.
I guess, yeah. Well, back then it was more of a thing where if people cared, they would know. And if people didn't know, Ellen probably didn't care. She's like, this is a sick song. I want to make this great song.
Well, she's in several songs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she does a lot of that kind of stuff. I think she has her own music, but I've never actually heard it.
Good for her.
She's got this voice that
I
actually didn't know it was a female singing in the song for years.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because you hear Meatloaf, who sounds pretty fucked up, and then you hear Ellen Foley, who also sounds pretty fucked up. So they both have this rasp, and you just kind of go, okay, that's a guy and a girly sounding guy. That's what I was assuming, like when I was young.
What really bugged me about the video of that is that they both have different microphones. I'm just like, you can't get the same sound out of two microphones, man. Like it's not that hard.
Oh man.
All the backups have like smaller microphones than Meatloaf. I think that was important. I think they meant to do
symbolism.
That. Well, yeah, but also I think they probably they wanted him to come through clearer than anyone else.
The funny thing is that I actually feel like the music video almost detracts from the music.
Really?
Because I heard it on the radio first, and then I listened to the song I listened to that song like 50 or 60 times. I've probably heard it like almost 100 times since I discovered it a month ago. Yeah, so all those times I heard it was just listening to it in the car. So there's just the audio and you just hear their voices. When you see them, it kind of ruins the illusion because well, their voices jump back and forth from being them as 17-year-olds and them now.
Oh, okay.
Because the perspective they're singing from has nothing to do with what they sound like. It's only about what they're saying.
Okay.
So when you see them in person, it's way harder because they're always singing the whole time. But when you're listening to it, you go like, okay, I get it. He's talking as his 17-year-old self. And also the video is just weird and kind of like awkward.
It is very strange.
They get like really close to each other and it was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
for anyone who doesn't know this song, there will be a link to the official Vivo, the only version I've found. The official Meatloaf Vivo as of today has no fucking profile photo. So it does that default YouTube thing where the first letter becomes the name. So it's like the official Meatloaf Vivo with the fucking check mark and everything has just like a green M.
An M.
It's basically a Twitter egg.
Oh my God. They really should just like, if I was going to do that, I would just go grab a photo from Google of Meatloaf and just put it up there, right? Yeah. You don't need a picture of the guy. You just need the symbolism.
You can take any shot from any one of the, like, he's just a big sweaty dude.
So, no, I meant put a picture of like a Meatloaf, right? Because then, no one really cares. Like everyone kind of gets that that's the joke.
People would laugh at that.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone would be like, oh, this is hilarious. Let me hear this song.
It's a Meatloaf.
Yeah, so if you're wondering, that is the official one, even though it seems like someone just tossed it together.
Well, I don't know if this is in your notes.
What?
But like 3 minutes in. Is that part of your notes?
Yeah, that transition.
It's not a transition.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
It's what is known in the film industry as a smash cut. When you go from one thing to the exact contrast of that thing.
Yeah.
It threw me off so much that when I was listening to an unofficial version, I was like, the fuck was that? And I went and watched the official Vivo version just to make sure. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. It just, like, boom! There's no...
So this song has this one... Well, when you're hearing it on the radio, it's even worse. It's got this one super jarring transition where you hear the part of the chorus that you've heard maybe 5 or 6 times before. It stops one word short of the end of the chorus.
Yeah.
And then immediately changes to a new pace, a new instrumental, and a new, like, topic, essentially, in what he's talking about. So, we're going to go all the way tonight. We're going to go all the way. Tonight's the night. But I heard it on the radio. So for me, I was like, wait, is this a new song? Because you're driving, right? You're not paying attention to everything.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it's just a different song. And you're like, what the fuck? But sure enough, at 8 minutes after the song started, the guy goes, "That was Paradise by the Dashboard Light." And I'm thinking, that's like a YouTube short story, right? Like that's not a song. Songs are 3 minutes. Yeah, exactly.
I really like. I don't know what you have planned here. Most of the time with these discussions, it's you lead me, and I don't know where we're going, so I'm never gonna step on your notes here. But, I mean, did you want to just did you want to say what it's about, or can I guess? I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's not like. It's not
you go
shrouded.
for the guess, and then I'll explain sort of the narrative that I sort of found out of it.
Okay, so what I picked up, and I've only heard it twice, is it's told retrospectively, because in the chorus it was because we were barely 17 and we were barely dressed. So he's speaking of the past. It's about 2 teenagers who are 17. Who are having their first sexual experience in a car by the lake.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Paradise by the dashboard light, I'm guessing means like heaven in the backseat of a car.
Well, front seat. Dashboard's not in the back
right.
seat.
The backseat. I'm sorry. Well, there's a reason why the backseat is referred to.
It's true.
It's like there's a Dance Gavin Dance song about it where it's like something in the backseat or something like that. But I mean, it's clearly a better space.
Yeah, it was that generation's Netflix and chill.
Oh, I see.
The backseat, right?
Okay.
Backseat grooving.
Backseat grooving. All right. Well, and then what else was I going to say? Well, then, like, I think the point of that jarring change is that I think maybe it's like supposed to represent them going through life and everything's kind of going the way as expected, and suddenly they're in this moment that scares both of them, but that's what the guy is like, we're gonna go all the way tonight. It's like out of fucking nowhere. And then she's like, before we go forward with this, do you love me? Do you need me? Are you gonna make me your wife? And he's like, let me sleep on it. Yeah. Which is, to me,
the most rational 17-year-old in the world.
It is rational, but I think it's a pun, right? She's like, before we have sex, do you love me? And he's like, let me sleep on it, which means they're going to have sex before they go to sleep. So he's like, I'll let you know in the morning after it happens, all right, baby? And she's like, no.
I never really thought about it that way.
Before we go forward, do you love me? Do you need me? Which is hilarious for a 17-year-old to be like, are you going to marry me? It's like, we haven't even got out of high school yet.
Yeah.
Which I guess at the time, I mean, it's not... I think that the high school sweethearts thing is going to become significantly less popular.
Well, it's going to be the Tinder sweetheart world.
We met on Tinder.
Yeah. Oh, we've been sweethearts for 30 years ever since Tinder got us together.
Which way do you swipe when you like somebody? Is it left or right?
I don't know. I think I've heard like swipe right used as a term.
Okay.
So I think that's the approved.
Oh, okay.
Like swipe right
it's
is
like, man, she's a 10.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, swipe right. Swipe right coming. Swipe right coming in the door.
That's gonna happen. That's probably already happened. I mean, the guy who said it's probably a fucking meat cleaver right now. Meat cleaver. But eventually, that'll be standard. That'll be normal.
For anyone who's not watching this won't come out in the right sequence. I am not a heavy smoker. I'm still just getting over a cough. All right. I realize there I kind of sound like I'm fucking Kevin Smith over here, coughing up along every time I laugh. Yeah. It makes everything that I laugh at sound like I am like laughing harder at it, because it sounds like I'm laughing so hard that I'm coughing it up.
Killing yourself.
When really I just have like this really low register.
It's that tickle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, you hit most of the points. So I'll take you through, like, I've listened to it enough times that I could probably recite the song. So I kind of follow it more as a storyline when I follow it. So obviously, they're remembering back in the day, they were, super young, and he says she was the best looking girl in his school.
Yeah. And a lot of other dudes wish that they were me.
Yeah. All the other dudes were wishing they were me that night. And so they obviously make all the obvious references, like our bodies were oh so close and tight. You let Mother Nature do the rest, that kind of stuff. So they're moving towards it. And then you mentioned we were barely dressed and we were 17.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say because we were barely 17 and we were barely dressed, those are the two blessings. Like they keep saying we were doubly blessed.
Yeah.
Because we were barely 17 and we were barely dressed. Those are the two blessings.
Okay.
Right there. That's why they keep saying that at the start of the song.
Is that they were young and...
Yeah, we're blessed because we're young and we're naked together.
Right.
Okay. That's like they're saying, like, oh, look at us. We're so fucking doubly blessed down by the water. And they're alone. There's no other cars around them, so it's not like they're going to be interrupted.
Yeah.
There's no cops or anything. And so he says... So open up your eyes because I got a big surprise. And it'll feel all right if I want to make your motor run.
Oh,
so
shit.
It's like, oh yeah, like they're really moving in towards it.
Well, it's a car pun too.
Oh yeah, the whole thing is one big long analogy with other analogies stuffed in there, like a squash or something. You mix a whole bunch of things in and then sort of digest it all at once.
The way you might stuff something into a meatloaf.
And then, well, that's where the drop happens, because they're doing all this, they're getting closer and closer and closer, and then that crazy, jarring, not comfortable at all transition where he goes, "We're gonna go all the way tonight," and it's funny because you don't know if he's saying that in the actual moment,
right?
Because like that'd be a weird thing to say right to someone, like, "We're gonna go all the way tonight. We're gonna go all the way. Tonight's the night." Like that's a strange.
Keep repeating it.
Yeah. Yeah, it says it 6
like,
times.
in like opera version too. Like,
realistically, I think that was just they knew they wanted this transition, and that baseball analogy in the middle?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
I really like that.
I think really it's just an excuse to drop into the baseball analogy and do that like funky time music that they have going on, that funky stuff kind of beat.
Yeah, and do you know if that's an actual recording or did they make that?
No, they must have made it. Because I've listened to it quite a few times, and the timing doesn't make any sense. Okay. Like, an announcer wouldn't have that much time to speak in an actual game of baseball. It might be clips from original ones, but mostly it just sounds like they made it for, like, effect.
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know what the baseball analogy is, we're about to get rated R for about 30 seconds.
The whole song is, kind of rated R in its own right.
The general baseball analogy, as I understand it, and the internet tells me, is...
this is informative, because I've seen many different circles refer to the bases as different things. I'm not quite sure.
This is the most comprehensive I've heard of, and it matches with the song. So the first base is kissing, and generally tongue kissing as well.
Heavy petting too?
Kinda, but not really.
That's my favorite thing from high school. That's how I knew high school was bullshit. I'm like, heavy petting. Yeah. We're about to become adults.
And that's what you want to call it?
Half of us are already fucking each other. And you're going to go ahead and call it heavy petting. Like that, you're pretending this isn't happening.
Yeah. Well, then the second base is kind of heavy petting.
Oh, okay.
Second base is like upper body touching.
Upper body, okay.
So, like shirt comes off, that kind of stuff.
Under the shirt?
Under the shirt, too.
Upstairs insides?
Upstairs insides. Yes, that's second base. Second base. This is a way less crude way to say it. So that's second base. Third base is any touching of the genitals.
Oh, outside, even outside? Does it have to be inside?
No, it has to be inside.
Skin on skin.
Yeah, direct touching of the genitals. Okay. And of any sort, really. And then the final one is intercourse. That is home base.
I see. I always knew that a home run has always been sex.
Yes.
That's never up to debate. But I've seen some groups where it's like first base is kind of like pretty much anything. It's like anything outside of clothing, and then second base is anything under clothing.
Then what's third base?
That's why I was always confused. I'm like, where? Like, you can't. Third base isn't home run.
That's the thing. That's why I like this one. I feel like it starts off mild and then it gets aggressive.
Yeah.
So
plus, it's like it's really easy to walk to first base, right? That's common. Everyone walks to first base.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes people give you the walk out of pity. You know, like I'll give you a walk, and you know what? You're already on first base. We'll give you can steal second. All right. So I actually like how they set up the baseball analogy, because they're setting it up the same way that the start of the song was. Right. So the guy says, bottom of the ninth, no score, no men on, 2 outs, which means this is the at bat
moment. Yeah.
If you're out, you're fucked. If you make a run, you win. So this is like ultimate make or break, which is make or break, which is the exact same as this scenario. You do it or you drive home uncomfortably from the woods, right?
That would be right.
Right? It's like... I thought we were going to go all the way tonight.
What?
I thought we were going to go all the way. Tonight was the night.
I sang an opera voice and
And
everything.
it didn't help. So he takes first and second with his at bat. So he knocks one out, takes first, charges straight into second. That's pretty impressive. And your already bodies are close and tight and you're barely dressed. That's pretty natural.
Mm-hmm.
So then, cheeky motherfucker steals third base.
No.
Right? So there, you're already...
Steals it.
Exactly. Doesn't even need an allowance for it. He just goes straight. Just go straight at it. Better to ask for forgiveness than permission, right?
Not in this situation.
Not in this situation,
Not
no.
at all.
So then, I don't know exactly what happens, but he's taken a huge lead out for home base, which means, he's going for it.
Mm-hmm.
He's going for it. And then you hear, like, the announcer getting closer and closer. He's like, here's the throw. Here's the play at the plate. I think he's going to make it. And then she goes, stop right there. And that's it. She stops him right at home base. Not even stops him at third. Like, he gets so close to home base.
Yeah.
And then he gets stopped. And then, that's when she starts asking these questions like, before we go on, like, I need to know that you love me before we do anything else, before we go any further. And then he goes, okay, well, but let me sleep on it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you, but let me... And I never really thought about it the way you thought about it. Because that actually makes a lot of sense that he's going, okay, well, I'll decide tomorrow morning if I love you.
Exactly.
I was thinking about it more as like, okay, well, let's just go home and I'll sleep on it and then we'll come back to this.
Right.
But yours actually makes way more sense.
That he's trying
all
to
of
just
a
trick
sudden.
her into it. He's like,
yeah.
Listen, love.
Yeah, so this is actually my favorite part in the whole song because they keep going back and forth where every time he says, let me tell you in the morning, she says, I need to know right now, until they're actually doing it like back to back and then over top of each other.
Yeah,
and that's my favorite fucking part of the song where everything just crescendos and she's just screaming, I need to know right now, as loud as she can. So then he finally breaks and he goes, fine. I swear to God, and I swear on my mother's grave that I will love you until the end of time.
I think the important part is right before that. He says something came over me.
Yeah.
He like a
and then the feeling came
surge.
upon me like a tidal wave.
Yeah, tidal wave.
Yeah.
Like so he, at first he was like, just I don't know, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like let me sleep on it. Let me sleep. And then she makes it very clear that he needs to say this, and he's like, oh right, sex is at stake. Yes, I love you. Ha! Did I say it right?
Well, he swears that he'll love her till the end of time.
Right.
But for some reason, even though he's the smartest 17-year-old ever, he's also the dumbest 17-year-old ever, and he decides to never, ever break that vow that he made when he was 17, naked with a girl.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, now I can't stand you anymore. I can't even stand another minute with you. So I really just hope that time ends so that I don't have to break up with you. And I can keep my vow.
I thought that's what he was saying.
Yeah, so now I'm praying for the end of time so that I can end my time with you.
Is this post-coitus?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
this is 40 years later all of a sudden now he's talking.
Oh, so he's still
He's
with
talking
her.
like nowadays.
Is
yeah.
he still with her?
Yeah.
So he stayed with her because of a promise he made when
He was 17. Because even at the end of the song, he goes on and he says, it was long ago and it was far away, but it was so much better than it is today.
Oh.
And he repeats that to Fade.
Oh,
yeah.
that's so sad.
It is really
ends so
sad.
sad.
Yeah, because it's basically the idea that when you're that young and that blessed and all those things are working for you, you shouldn't make decisions that you were, forever till the end of time. But I noticed that there's so much good wording in the song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my favorite part at the start is when he says, and I never had a girl looking any better than you did.
Mm.
So he's saying,
Oh,
he's
it's like you
yeah.
used to look good.
He's like, the best looking girl I've ever been with is you when you were younger. It's in the first two lines.
Does she speak this way of the past?
'Cause
I didn't really notice much of the back and forth. Like only the chorus was the only part that I really noticed as being a retrospective.
I actually don't really know. She doesn't speak much of it, but I think in the sections that she does speak of it, she's sort of praying for the end, the same thing. She's like, I don't know if I could last another minute with you either, but like, this is the promise we made.
Yeah.
It's like, oops.
We have to.
Well, because here I have the list. These are the promises. Okay. Do you love me? Of course. Will you love me forever? Okay, of course. Do you need me? Yes, absolutely. Will you never leave me? Okay, yes. Love you forever. I'm never gonna leave you. Will you make me so happy for the rest of my life? Yeah, of course, because it goes with all those other things. Will you take me away and will you make me your wife? It's like, okay, okay. You had me at the forever thing, though that I'm not entirely sure that makes sense. But we're 17 and you're asking me to marry you?
Yeah.
There's one thing between like, will we one day be happily ever after and like we'll get married, but it's like she's basically saying like, will you guaranteed marry me as soon as we can?
Yeah.
And he's going, I know we're in a car naked in the woods, but no. I see that wedding coming faster than it sounds like it would come.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's how it goes. You know, you're 17 years old, she's going make a choice, and he's going, I don't break my promises. Like, there's nothing you can do.
This kid has like a lot of honor. He's kind of an idiot though.
Well, he romanticizes about this period of time a lot, right? Because they're singing about this song, and he's saying it was so much better than it is today, and this is such an amazing thing. But realistically, back then, he was probably freaking out, and he had, he was still young, and probably in his dad's car, and trying to figure out his life. And so even though it seems like that period of time in his life was better, now probably is better, right? He knows, like, even though he's not happy with whoever she is, he's grown up. He's learned from those mistakes. He now knows, don't be 17 and make a choice that you're never gonna overturn.
Yeah, I think it has an interesting message.
I think the message is when you're young, you should focus on doing things that you want to do, but I think there's a difference between like the kind of integrity a person has where they'll say, yeah, like I love you, and then 3 years later you might not love them anymore. And then there's another person who would just lie from the beginning, right? Like there's a total difference between those things.
Yeah.
Just because something's not going to last forever doesn't mean it doesn't exist now.
Yeah, well, just because it ended, like that's a really common thing where it's like someone breaks up with them and they're like, so the whole thing was a lie. No, it wasn't a lie. I just don't love you now. But that the tough thing is that's really common for people to like when you say someone broke your heart. That one's true. Whether they meant to or not, it's still broken. But to say they did something to you by breaking up with you, like it was like they meant to hurt you, is not necessarily true. And I think that the better thing for both of you is that if one person's not happy with the other, you shouldn't want to still be with that person. I'm aware of the feeling, very aware. But it's better for everyone when you don't do what makes you unhappy.
It is, and I think that there's this weird thing where, you break up with someone and, yeah, they assume that, there must have been some sort of, like, lies involved.
Yeah.
But that just kind of proves that the person who's suspecting those lies probably didn't love the other person in the same way.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you really love somebody, even though it's over, you would still have enough love for them to realize that they were just doing what they thought was right at the time.
Well, to also know that that you should still want them to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if you really do care about them and you're not happy together, then yeah. I mean, that's the hardest thing to actually practice. It's so easy to say.
On a smaller scale, when I first started Bros Play and I had you and Dane on here because the intention was to have all my bros on there, he did 5 episodes and he didn't want to do it from episode 3. Oh. So like I remember being like mad about it. And I was like that's a lot of time to be spending that, like it's half an hour of doing something you weren't happy about. But retrospectively, I realized that I was the one that kept pushing him to do the show. I'm like, dude, man, let's play some fucking Batman, man.
Because you wanted to do it.
Exactly. It was about me. And so when he was like, yeah, I wasn't happy. Like, I pretty much didn't want to do that from episode 3. And I was like, the fuck, man? Even though that was really me pushing him, and he did it for me.
For you, yeah.
Which is not what I wanted. And that was a good realization to finally realize, like, oh, I was pushing him to do that kind of thing. And the best thing is for us to not be doing something we don't want to do, especially when it's a show that's all about doing what you want to do. Well,
because the other option is you take the Meatloaf route, and Dane does like
1,000,000 episodes. 300 episodes later.
Locked in for life. Coming back every week miserable. He's drinking like a liter of coffee every time just to stay up through it. I promised him 2 years ago, and I'm not giving up.
We're going to do this for the next 10 years.
We're gonna do this until it stops being unfun.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, that was Meatloaf by Moonlight or Meatloaf at Midnight, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, actually, if you type Meatloaf by Moonlight, because I forgot the name of this thing, so you texted me you're like, are you ready for Meatloaf by Moonlight? And I typed that in, and the first thing that came up was Paradise by the Dashboard Lights.
Nice. Yeah, that's my Meatloaf.
Well, I hope you enjoyed. At the same time, I'm not worried about it.
Listen to the song, even if you don't get any of the things that I just mentioned about it, even if you just hear that crazy fucking part where they crescendo together in this weird sort of round / duet, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hey.